Hello and welcome to Composerscape. I'm Jess Hendricks and this is Scott Hall, and we are going to once again be diving into the latest on WandaVision and have a big talk about Marvel heroes and where the story might be going and some stuff from the comic books. It's going to be like a Marvel Universe extravaganza. So buckle up and here we go. So let's talk about that last episode first and get started. Okay. For me, I want to say it started off and it was pretty funny and it had a lot of cool things going on, like the Vision and Darcy team up was pretty hilarious, and how Wanda was blocking him, and then they started her kind of losing touch with reality, and then they did the whole Modern Family thing, which my wife and I got a kick out of because we love the show Modern Family. Right. And like her kind of breaking down, but all of that is so hard to remember because of how it ended. And as usual, and I'll put it in the title, spoilers, we cannot talk about WandaVision without spoilers. Otherwise it would be a very short podcast.
The show's great. You should watch it.
Yes. The theme song was cool. They did Modern Family and Darcy was hilarious. So, but yeah, definitely spoilers. So at the end, they have revealed that, and some people had apparently figured this out a few episodes ago, that are theorized that, and I don't know the actor's name, but that she is Agatha Harkness. Mm-hmm. And so, almost immediately we had to read and figure out who the heck is Agatha Harkness, especially me, the DC guy. And
we finally get an answer. In a way, I mean, it's not definitive, but I think we do have a really good indicator now that it's not just Wanda being a complete, I don't know, she hasn't just full on gone supervillain on us. And it's not exact. I mean, there's obviously an element to this where Wanda was dealing with some trauma, PTSD, if you want to call it that. She kind of, stripped a gear. But we now have a very good indicator that someone is largely responsible for doing this to her, to some degree. Now, whether or not this is something that Wanda just ended up snapping and kind of doing, and then you've got a third party who's like, I'm going to take advantage of this situation, move into her little pocket universe and start pulling strings, or if this was a plan of hers from the beginning. We don't know that yet, but there's clearly a supervillain involved.
Right. And that also, when the first thing I noticed when I just scanned an article on Agatha, and you very quickly see the words, like if you run the find in the browser, you see the words Scarlet Witch a lot, because apparently in the comics, at least in some versions, she trained Scarlet Witch. Yep. She's very old. She was part of the Salem witch trials and everything. Yeah. And then you also see the word Mephisto come up. So we've been mentioning that Mephisto is quite possibly going to be a part of this. We're like, who is Mephisto? Apparently, from what I just read, he is literally the Marvel Universe Satan. He's been around since before 1 million BC.
Right. He's
the one that tricked Adam and Eve into eating the fruit and all of that, disguised as a snake. So
what a jerk.
I think he's also often he's a regular enemy of Doctor Strange. So this is definitely leading into possibly is he going to be either the next big bad in the Marvel Universe or just the next big bad in Doctor Strange? I don't know.
Well, it's a lot of plot threads leading us to that next Doctor Strange chapter. Mm-hmm. And so this actually opens up, this is a good window for us to talk about something. And Jess and I were talking before we started rolling, and I wanted to touch on this because several times in this season, and parts of our conversation have revolved around the possibility that Disney, Marvel, and being able to regain and have access to the licensing, the rights to include more of the Marvel Universe along with the films, and in a way to possibly have an avenue to incorporate some of the X-Men mutant cast of characters potentially into the Avengers universe which I think would make longtime fans of the comics very happy.
Yep.
But what you've got here is a window or a doorway that's wide open to bring the Scarlet Witch character a little more in line with the nature of her character in the comics versus her origin in Avengers Age of Ultron. Because in the films, it's explained that Wanda and her brother were granted their powers, that they were altered through experimentation by Hydra scientists using the Space Stone, correct? The Tesseract, which in the movies.
No, that was the mind. No, not the one that was in Loki's staff.
Yeah, that was the Space Stone.
That was the Space Stone?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
And so
watch those.
The nature of the stone, I don't think is important, but they were using it as a power source and using it to experiment on people. And you got enhanced. Let's say that in air quotes. And right. So in the previous Marvel films, they're not referred to as mutants.
They legally couldn't say the word mutant in any
Correct.
Marvel film.
Correct. And whether or not they do moving forward, we'll see. Let me get to my point. This has to do with magic. This is a conversation about magic.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got the door thrown wide open for magic in the Marvel Cinematic Universe with the Doctor Strange film.
Yep.
In the comics, Wanda is a little bit unique because she's a mutant, which means her X gene gives her access to some sort of, superpower.
Right.
Obviously, we never go into the physics and the biology of how exactly that's possible. That's all you need to know. It's genetic. They have an X gene, which gives them superpowers. And Wanda is a mutant, and her mutant power, as it turns out, is she has immediate access without the need for any study, or she has an inherent intrinsic ability to access a type of magic called chaos. It's chaos magic in the comics. And that is her mutant power, right? Hence her name. And so chaos magic, as you can probably imagine by the name, is very unstable. It can warp reality. It can do all kinds of things. And, and just on the very basic sense, she can read thoughts and change people's minds, make you hallucinate. She can cause illusions, right? And she has sort of telekinetic ability, right? She move things with her mind, sort of create things out of thin air. And so far, those are all very basic things that aren't going to necessarily damage reality to a large degree. But the more and more and more she dips into that, and the more things she changes, right? Like an entire city, this town in New Jersey, right? Trying to change it, bringing people back to life, killing people, right? All of these kind of things. She's starting to break stuff. But the point here is that you've got another magic character coming into the picture who's, has access to these powers with tomes and spells and things like that. And Wanda gets to skip all the homework. Like I said,
in Dungeons and Dragons terms, if you play the most recent version, she is a sorcerer.
Yeah.
And Doctor Strange is a wizard.
That's right. That's a very good analogy. So that's all I wanted to say about that. I think it's kind of exciting that they're going to finally bring those. They're going to bridge that gap.
Yeah. Well, they promised this was going to lead directly into Doctor Strange, Doctor Strange movie, and that she's apparently going to be. And it seems like moving forward, Marvel's not really doing as many straight. It seems like whenever they do a sequel, it's never a straight solo movie. Now it's always. It's going to be Doctor Strange and Wanda. And then Spider-Man was Spider-Man and Iron Man. And then this next one's going to be Spider-Man and like everybody. I think that's going to be like their next Civil War or something. Maybe. I'm hearing so many strange. But so that's Wanda. And Wanda was just one thing in this episode. I thought the really big surprising thing before the Agatha thing at the end, which is literally, I think that's probably their best ending of an episode yet. It's like, it was me. But Monica Rambeau, I think we talked in the last episode, like, so we know how Captain Marvel got her powers in the movies was with that damn space stone. Boy, they better be glad that thing's gone. So we were like, if that's how they did Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, who I have to remember not to say Cara Danvers. That's not so subtle thing. But anyway, how she got her powers was different from the comics, I'm assuming. Well, we were like, how is Monica going to get her powers? And I'll be darned if they didn't figure out a great way to do it.
Yeah.
Her going in and out of the hex.
Yeah.
So now is she powered, or does she realize it, or is she still a little?
That's a great question, because she definitely appears to have, her eyes were lit up and there was some kind of aura, like some kind of electromagnetic radiation, kind of static or something coming off of her when she was trying to fight back against Wanda. So I think we got a very clear idea, like, okay, Monica has been powered up.
And you were saying, I think you were telling me that it's looking like she's got her actual comic book powers.
So. Yeah, and so who knows if we're going to get a First Flight kind of moment where she realizes it and then is able to like figure out how to do something with that. We'll see. Might be continued in another story arc, in another film, in another show. Who knows? She might get her own show. In the comics, Monica Rambeau becomes this hero who apparently she's had a couple of different names. She's gone by a couple of different names over the last, 2.5 decades or so. Uh-huh. She may have been a character longer than that. I don't know what
Spectrum is one of her names.
I think that's the name that most people are going to know her by, and it most represents what her power set is, which is that she can transform her body into any form of electromagnetic radiation, anything on the EM spectrum.
So you were saying she can zip around.
Radio waves, sound, right? Light. She can transform her body into pure light, gamma, X-ray, right? Or cosmic radiation. And as a result, she is very powerful, right? There's a lot of things she can do with that. She's, the utility of that. Who knows if they've even come close to scratching the surface with that in the comics. But the point here is that she can fly, she can project energy, create energy. Theoretically, I think they've said that if she can transform into pure light, then she can travel at light speed.
Right. Which brought a funny conversation we were having earlier on that page. You saw that Monica Rambeau can travel at the speed of light, but her speed is only 6 out of 7.
On this Marvel database.
We figured out what that is. If you can teleport, you have a speed of 7. So, for instance, Doctor Strange, he has a speed of 7 because he can just use magic and appear anywhere he wants. Unless it's using D&D rules, in which case he had to have been there before.
Right.
You can't teleport somewhere you're not familiar with, or you'll teleport into a brick wall.
Inside of a wall. That's no good. Yeah.
If you were looking for a podcast that was not very nerdy, you have clicked the wrong link.
Correct.
Yes.
In the wrong place. I'll be excited to see how they develop that character and what else she's going to try to do. She may be instrumental in helping Wanda to break free of this whole situation. Now, since we're talking about Agatha, and to bring up another point of this episode, first of all, there's a point that we touched on last week, which is that obviously the hex, and not the hex, the barrier. I just mean the whole situation inside the town, whether or not this is Agatha's doing or Agatha's manipulating Wanda to do all of these things. Wanda's power does not affect Vision. And Vision is now finally self-aware of the fact that
he did.
First, right. He's probably dead and brought back. He has no memory prior to the Westview.
Yeah, it seems like when she brought him back, she didn't want him to know.
Right. And so Darcy's saying all this stuff to him, and he's thinking, what's an Avenger? What is that?
And then Agatha was the one who convinced him to, tricked him into trying to leave the hex. So it's like she's testing it. I don't know. She's just
maybe
throwing things at it to see what sticks and what she can. It's almost like, I feel like Agatha is going to, if not in Doctor Strange, she's also going to, has anyone spotted her on set of Loki? Because it feels like they're going to get along.
Yeah. And then you've got this element that it kind of slipped by if you weren't paying attention, which is who's that guy that's supposed to be Wanda's brother? Right? Who is that?
And how would she have known about that?
And so,
but apparently Agatha did. And where was he the last? Oh, wait, they explained where he was the last episode. Did they? He just wasn't there.
Yeah, I don't remember. But I'm going to tinfoil hat. I'm going to speculate and just make a prediction that we may find out. And again, this is another plot thread that may lead us directly into the Doctor Strange and the Madness of the Multiverse movie, which is that Agatha has somehow, in this manipulation and whatever it is she's doing to Wanda, she has tapped in somehow. She knows about the multiverse and some kind of something she's doing, magic. Was maybe able to pull him, this other version of Pietro, of Quicksilver, from some sort of parallel universe.
Well, she may be under the employ of Mephisto, and he definitely will know about them. I mean, this person, several people actually found this on Twitter is very useful for fan theories because people just spew that stuff out. You just don't want to ever be on Twitter on Friday because everyone gets up at 3 a.m. to watch this thing. So this was in the basement. I think that looks like Wanda. Yeah, that's her jumpsuit. She's going back there looking for her kids when it was actually some sort of weird trap. And I don't know if you can see my mouse, but that is on that right column. And then they did a close up. You have this devil looking thing and people have started saying, ooh, Mephisto.
Right.
So maybe Agatha was sent there by Mephisto to, because he probably, I would say, wants. I don't know. I still don't know in the MCU if officially, because I've heard different. Like I think the Russo brothers said, if there wasn't the giant army, Scarlet Witch could have taken on Thanos by herself and defeated him.
Yep.
And Rob Liefeld claims that in the comics, 100% Scarlet Witch is the most powerful character. Some other people dispute that, but he's like, in my view, as a comic book writer, if I write Scarlet Witch, then no one can defeat her.
Right. And so this gets into what I was saying earlier, that the nature of her power can potentially warp reality, right? She can turn Thanos into a bunny rabbit, theoretically.
Right? I can't believe this is all happening at the same time in both movie universes. They're tapping the multiverse.
Oh, I know.
MCU's going to beat them to the punch.
Right.
Well, these have been. They announced the Flash being Flashpoint, a version of Flashpoint.
I mean, this is a pretty common. I think it's a story it's a writing tool. It's a good science fiction, comic booky style kind of writing tool.
It also allows your directors and your creators to do their own thing, because if they do something too strange, they can just say multiverse.
Yeah, exactly. Ever since the birth of theoretical quantum physics and Schrodinger and all of the Heisenberg principle, like all of this stuff, like there's multiple states of reality, and the notion that this reminds me of the show Devs. Did you ever watch that?
No.
Oh boy, that'll bake your noodle. That show. Woo. This idea of like the many worlds versus the quantum. A lot of quantum. I'm starting to sound like I understand quantum physics, which is ridiculous.
Well, I figured out something interesting not on my own, but someone pointed it out. If there are, in fact, infinite universes, as is the hypothesis with the multiverse,
right? In
the real world, that means you go enough of these infinite universes, then eventually, here, watch me share my whole screen. Then eventually these fools are real.
Oh, sure.
Yep. There's a universe out there somewhere with Superman.
That's right.
There's with a Kryptonian, with a planet Krypton.
That's right.
Because if it's infinite, if we can imagine it, that means every story that's ever been written is possibly true somewhere.
That's right. That's right.
And if that is the case, then maybe we should, as who was it that said, as Stephen Hawking said, maybe we need to quit sending signals out to aliens, because eventually one of these fools is going to come and we may not like the message they're delivering.
That's right.
Because when real dark side shows up, then everyone's going to be like, oh, damn, that sucks.
Yeah.
We were hoping for ET and we get Apocalypse.
And we don't have a Superman in this universe.
No, well, not that we're aware of. Maybe Krypton hadn't blown up yet.
Yeah. So
didn't they find a star that looked like it could be like the Krypton type thing, something like that? It was a star, and its planet, it was a red star, and its planet was very close to it, so it would have been livable. So they named it Krypton.
I'll have to look that up.
That's how it starts.
Well, I think that's maybe all I've got for this last. I think we've got the episodes.
It's
One thing
accelerating. Each episode accelerates to. We know that the Agatha thing was such a. I mean, people knew it was coming, but the fact that she was actually behind, I thought the snafus were Wanda not being in control, but it's Wanda not being in control because someone's poking and prodding.
Right. I was blindsided by
the dog thing. I usually don't laugh at those types of things, but that was funny.
Yeah. Well, I forgot to mention the pseudo Munsters theme song.
Yes, it was. I've had the Munsters theme stuck in my head all weekend. It's driving me crazy.
It was perfect.
Oh my goodness.
Really good.
Like, where are they going with this?
Exactly.
I can't wait for next Friday.
If from a purely writer's standpoint, one thing the folks making the show have excelled at is every week they kind of answer a couple of questions, right, that you're real curious about from the previous week, and they end with well, now what the hell is going on?
A new question. They answer a few questions and give us a new one.
They open a whole new door. So we will.
I guess that's better than the Lost formula of doing nothing but giving people questions and then ending without answering any of them satisfactorily.
So what do we know how many episodes that they've produced for this season? How many episodes do we have left?
Didn't we come up with 12? It says 9 episodes. But I am not. Oh yeah, there's 2 more episodes.
Yeah.
Awesome. So this is going to be good.
There's one more episode.
No, Breaking the Fourth Wall was episode 7.
Oh, you're right. So we get 2 more. Okay.
WandaVision is 1 episode number behind us. That's how I remember. We're episode 8 coming up, and WandaVision was episode 7.
All right. Well.
Yeah. So that's what we got on WandaVision.
Yeah. We have an idea, and for the half dozen of you listening to this,
we're up to 34.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll do a poll. Maybe people want to chime in on here, but Jess and I have the idea of not just talking about movies and TV shows, but may potentially do something like a book club style analysis, talking about some of these story arcs that we keep making reference to when we're talking about the DC comics and Marvel comics and stuff, where we may take some of the more famous and popular and who knows, maybe even obscure story arcs and graphic novels and things from these different universes and just read them week to week. And we might break them into chapters. And if there's something like that anybody would want to participate in or read along with us as a particular story that you would like to see. And as a first suggestion, something Jess and I were talking about before we started rolling. To my knowledge, there's only been one of these, but back in, and I looked up the publication date on it. This was from 2003 and 2004, a limited series, JLA, right? Justice League of America, Avengers crossover. And we were talking about multiverse and kind of crossover events and things like that. And there's a story arc that is a graphic novel. I guess it's been compiled at least into a graphic novel. It was issues originally, but it was a limited run.
Oh yeah, I think they call those collections, but they're like graphic novels.
And to my knowledge anyway, and correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody wants to email us or write this in the comments, have there been other instances where DC Comics and Marvel Comics got together and put their main characters on the same page and had them interact with one another? And I read this years ago. I'm really wanting to go back and read it again now because it was a definite kind of multiverse dimensional crossing. And the one thing I remember about it is that very early on in the story, not to spoil anything here, but they encounter one another after being sort of zapped into some kind of pocket dimension or something like that. When they come face to face with one another, immediately both sides assume that the other side is responsible for this. And how dare you? And when it comes to fisticuffs, right? They get angry at one another and they just assume that the other side are villains. Like they take one look at Batman.
Well, you got to have them fight. But the only problem I see with that, and we've talked about this with Marvel, they tend to shy away from godlike superheroes for the most part.
For the most part.
DC tends to mostly have godlike, Wonder Woman Now, Wonder Woman versus Captain Marvel, I'm fairly certain Captain Marvel wins that one.
Probably.
But Martian Manhunter could probably single-handedly take down the Avengers. And Superman.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're just so much on a different level of power.
Yeah. I think the big question there, and
Batman versus Iron Man would be badass.
One of those super nerdy questions that I'm sure comes up between 7 and 8 year olds all the time. But who would win a fight between Superman and the Hulk? And they may actually get to that at some point in that story arc. I don't remember if Superman and the Hulk actually go toe to toe, but at least I remember that's kind of how the story starts out, is both sides just assuming that the other side, you're villains, right? You're behind
Well,
this.
I mean, the Avengers look the part. I mean, I guess here, I'm dying to show these off. I guess if the Justice League shows up with this guy.
Yeah, well, Captain America takes one look at Batman.
Or Martian Manhunter.
Right. Clearly, this guy's up to no good.
Or when they see Martian Manhunter shapeshift, maybe they would automatically assume he's a Skrull.
Skrull. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and this is something I'll be reading. These are the variant covers for the Justice League are going to feature art based on the movie. Yeah. There's black suit Superman looking all PO'd. I'm sorry, I like pissed off Superman. I know everyone wants happy, smiley Superman.
Yeah. Well,
but I like my Superman to get angry when someone threatens the world.
Right. Remember there being some funny memes that came out when Man of Steel was originally issued with the bearded, shirtless, flaming Superman. He's on fire.
Yeah, I guarantee you those memes were by dudes. Yeah. Because I did not see many complaints about bearded, shirtless Henry Cavill from women and those interested.
It's just that scene at the beginning when he's saving the oil rig.
That's his first line in the movie. It took. I realized that it's like the come on. That was literally his first line in the whole movie.
Oh, come on. Well, so
I love first lines.
So JLA Avengers crossover would be an interesting story to read.
What you should do is if you've found the collection, you should screen share and show everybody, and then I'll pop a link in the description for where they can either purchase
I don't know where to purchase that. Honestly, I'm looking at Wikipedia right now because I read it years and years ago, and I want to say that it's probably on Comixology. It might be on a different source. We'll have to look and see.
Throw up the cover so we can have an idea.
Let me get it open here. It's JLA/Avengers issues 2 and 4, titled Avengers JLA, published September 2003 through March 2004. And let me see if I can find a cover for it. I'm not seeing any.
So I guess they jointly published it, Marvel and DC, or did they each publish it probably with their own covers?
I think it's half and half. I think that's what the Wikipedia entry was trying to say, is that you had a JLA/Avengers issues 1 and 3 probably published under the DC. But if I had to guess, and then issues 2 and 4 were the opposite, kind of a mirror image.
Yeah, no, it's probably funny about that. I was going to say, wow, it must have been really cool for the DC people to get to draw the Avengers, but most of them have done both.
Right.
We've worked for both companies.
So, let me try this. For anyone
you should be able to share.
Right. I'm going to, let's see, where's my Safari? Right. So here is.
I wish Zoom gave more control over the sharing window sizes, but there we go.
Here's what I'm looking at.
Oh, Thor versus Superman. That looks fun.
That actually, now that I think about it, makes a little more sense.
And Green Arrow versus Hawkeye. Yeah.
The Flash and Quicksilver.
Who's taking on Martian Manhunter up there? I guess I see Martian Manhunter's chest.
Let's see. I went to Google Images just to kind of see, and that's, I think, about all we got.
Oh my God, Plastic Man.
Yeah, right.
Weird. Seeing Captain America with Wonder Woman.
Exactly. Right. There's the Atom. Ant-Man's probably in there somewhere.
Did you hear the character Ryan Choi is going to be in Justice League?
Fanboy factor. It's not going to let me look at this image any longer, is it? Well, anywho.
Yeah, that'll be a good one to start. We'll find it. We'll probably end up reading a totally different one each.
And one other that I would like to suggest, and I was talking to Jess about this again before we started rolling. which is, again, in all of our talk about multiverse, parallel dimensions, and things like that. The Avengers, I believe the overall name of the story arc is Infinity, and it starts with a volume, I think, titled Everything Ends, or Everything Dies.
That sounds familiar.
Everything Dies. And in an earlier episode of our podcast, we made reference to this piece of story arc that exists in the Avengers and X-Men and Marvel canon, where you have some of the most powerful, presumably most intelligent, kind of wisest, probably most self-involved and sort of self-inflated personalities in the Marvel Universe, who take it upon themselves to be the kind of stewards of humanity, and they form this Illuminati society. It's Professor X originally, who dies in the comics. Spoiler there, I'm sure everybody knows that. It's Professor X, Doctor Strange, right? Stephen Strange, Tony Stark, Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, T'Challa, the Black Panther, and Namor, apparently, as the king of Atlantis.
What's it called?
Everything Dies. And this is a Jonathan Hickman, one of his story arcs, and it's under the New Avengers.
Yeah, I see it here it's on Amazon if you want to get it.
Yeah. And so Everything Dies, Other Worlds, kind of story arc. And
I thought that was Batman for a second. That's T'Challa.
Yeah. Very, very dark.
Ooh, I like the art.
Kind of grim. The artwork is excellent. The writing is really good, for a story. And it's just a really fascinating kind of story where this collection of heroes is having to make impossible decisions, and they're just kind of crushed under the morality of the whole situation, where they have to get blood on their hands. And there's an aspect of this storyline, I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but there's probably some elements to this story that I am not actually familiar with the preceding storyline, which is apparently this ongoing war between Atlantis and Wakanda. Because Namor is one of the characters in this.
The Flashpoint future where Atlantis is fighting.
It does, doesn't it?
Themyscira.
It really does, doesn't it?
And Wonder Woman's evil ruler of the world, and Aquaman is Aquaman wants revenge for her murdering Mira, and
well, maybe we'll start and see if we can get our hands on this JLA Avengers crossover. And if people have suggestions about some things, and who knows, maybe even some material that would be good setups for some of the things coming in the films and the TV shows coming up.
And then if this is as fun as it sounds, we could end up doing some of the classics too. Like I know my favorite graphic novel is the Batman Year One period.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Freaking Batman Year One is amazing, but I also wouldn't object to Dark Knight Returns.
Dark Knight Returns, the first volume.
Frank Miller, everything. The Watchmen. Yeah. The Watchmen I have not yet read, but after seeing the series and the movie preceding the series, I kind of want to. I've been meaning to.
That truly is a masterpiece. And, you want to have a conversation about Zack Snyder, DC films. The Watchmen, to my knowledge, although it's funny that you mentioned Batman Year One. So The Watchmen, to my knowledge, is one of the most accurate representations, with one huge elephant in the corner that fans of the graphic novel.
Yeah, he didn't want to do the giant squid.
The giant squid, right? And so not going to get into that. Other than that one point, right? It's one of the most accurate representations of a graphic novel to get onto the big screen. And it's a fantastic movie. So well made.
Maybe it'll turn out that Barry Allen's dad is actually secretly Dr. Manhattan. It's the same actor. It is.
That's true. Yeah.
And Orm. Zack said, you see where how the DC universe, there's a lot of Watchmen actors that have,
it's like Chris Nolan.
Freaking, what's his name? Negan, Jeffrey Morgan. Jeffrey Morgan was Thomas Wayne. And then he apparently brought the actor that plays Maggie to be Martha.
That's right. So Chris Nolan.
Yeah, we could do a whole. And
same.
actually, it'd be fun to do. We could do if we ever get to the Watchmen, because we've already. I think we have like at least 5 graphic novels on our queue of a thing we haven't even started. But yeah, let's this week we'll look up the information.
I wanted to mention you mentioned Batman Year One, and now we're talking about DC films and Christopher Nolan, who also has a short list. Not that short, but there's a small collection of actors that have been in a lot of his movies. Morgan Freeman.
A lot of directors do that.
And Batman Year One was a huge, like that story, big time. The first of the Christopher Nolan Batman movies.
Yeah, the Batman Begins. That was definitely
largely
inspired by that.
From that story, which was also excellent. Really, really good. Anyway, so if you've got comments and suggestions, want to see some more component of that, if you've got suggestions for stories, throw them at us.
Yeah. Get in that comment section. We're that's eventually going to fire off. Someone's going to make a comment, and then other people are going to respond. I don't want to purposely make people angry, but we got to get that comment section going. I'll actually use the comment section. And we can throw out, go ahead and you can make comments too. Just go ahead and throw out ideas for graphic novels for us to talk about. Sure. And I believe that's it for us this week. So don't forget to add those comments and like and subscribe. And hey, we're getting the likes and the subscribes. We just need those comments now.
Right.
And we'll respond, and we'll be back next week.
All right.